profoundly human, undeniably universal, and actually everywhere you look, religion.
It really is.
Think about this. Archaeologists, they found burial sites, these strange Venus figurines from maybe 60,000 years ago, all hinting at ancient beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And even the ancient Greek traveler Herodotus, he studied something like 500 different groups and reported that every single one had some form of religion.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? It really signals that religion isn't some niche thing or just a modern invention. It's fundamental, adapting and persisting across cultures, millennia, right up to today.
Absolutely. So our mission here is to unpack why. Why does religion seem so universal? How does it adapt and, morph into so many diverse forms?
And its impact, right? The profound impact it has on societies, often in ways we don't even expect.
Exactly. We're going to give you a shortcut, sort of to understanding this complex, often misunderstood, but let's face it, utterly captivating part of being human.
And just so you know, all the insights we're drawing on today come from a really comprehensive series of AI monkey YouTube videos, so it's well-researched, multifaceted stuff.
Definitely. So let's dive in. The big question first. If science and progress are supposedly so dominant now, why has religion stuck around, universally, in every society ever studied?
It's a great question. It really suggests there's something deep going on, maybe something ingrained in human nature itself.
And anthropology offers some compelling answers. We can kind of look at these through, say, 4 core lenses. Each shows a different facet of why we humans seem almost wired for belief.
Okay.
First up, let's think about humans as intellectual seekers.
Ah, yes. E.B. Tyler's idea. He suggested that early humans, they encountered mysterious stuff, vivid dreams, maybe trances, the big one.
Leth. Things they couldn't easily explain.
Exactly. So naturally, they started asking questions. What's this invisible part of us? What happens when we die? And this line of thought, Tyler argued, led to the idea of a spirit or soul, something separate from the body.
Which leads to animism.
Precisely. The belief that spirits inhabit everything, rocks, trees, animals. It was like an early intellectual attempt to make sense of the world, to explain the unexplainable.
So if you've ever woken up from a really weird dream and wondered what it meant or, pondered what happens after life, this theory says that's kind of where it all starts, that basic human curiosity. Okay, and another angle comes from Sigmund Freud. He linked our earliest experiences, our childhoods, to religious belief.
Yeah, Freud proposed this childhood echo idea. As little kids, we see our parents as these all-powerful, almost superhero figures, right? They can fix anything.
Totally. My dad could fix my bike. He was a god.
Exactly. But then we grow up and we realize, oh, wait, they have limits. They're imperfect. They can't solve everything.
The disillusionment is real.
It is. And Freud suggested that to cope with losing those omnipotent protectors, we kind of create this universal parent god, a perfect, infallible figure who can always provide comfort and help when our real parents can't. It's about maintaining that early sense of security.
Like when you realize your superhero parents can't actually banish monsters from under the bed forever.
Yeah.
And that feeling of vulnerability, that leads us nicely into the next idea. Bronos Malinowski's anxiety buffer model.
Right. Malinowski pointed out that, look, science is great, it solves a lot, but it just cannot stop death. It can't cure every single illness. There are fundamental limits.
Existential limits.
Exactly.
That's
These
right.
huge unknowns, these parts of life we just can't manage, they make us anxious. So religion steps into that gap. It offers comfort beliefs in an afterlife, rituals to connect with ancestors, the idea that death isn't really the end.
Like the Gita's metaphor.
Yeah, the body being like a garment, the soul just sheds for a new one. A really powerful image for reincarnation.
Yeah.
So this theory suggests religion meets that fundamental human need to cope with life's biggest, most unresolvable anxieties. Where science hits a wall, religion offers a path.
How do you cope with life's big anxieties? It's a question this theory brings up. Okay, finally, Emil Durkheim. His social approach kind of flips the script. He argued religion isn't mainly about the supernatural. It's about us. It's about the group.
Yeah, Durkheim's work was revolutionary. He observed that when people gather for rituals, big festivals, even, a huge concert or a football match, they experience something powerful. He called it collective effervescence.
An electric feeling.
Exactly. This buzz, this feeling of unity, shared emotion, almost like a transcendent energy flowing through the crowd. And to kind of capture and solidify that feeling, Durkheim said, groups choose a symbol, a material thing, a totem, and declare it sacred.
So the totem represents the group's energy.
It represents the group to itself. And worshiping the totem is really worshiping the society, the collective.
Okay.
This creates what he called a single moral community, binding people together. He even suggested modern life might weaken old bonds, but we just invent new ones.
That's fascinating. So where do you experience that feeling of unity today? What sacred symbols define those groups for you? Are shopping malls, maybe even Facebook groups or Instagram followings, becoming our new sacred spaces that recreate that group buzz?
It really makes you rethink what sacred even means in our daily lives, doesn't it? It shows how these basic human needs for explanation, security, comfort, belonging, they keep religion going, even as its forms change dramatically over time.
It truly is compelling.
Yeah.
Okay, this leads us perfectly into looking at religion's shifting face, especially through more critical lenses and how it adapts today. Let's start with power and protest. Karl Marx famously saw religion as
Opium for the masses.
Yeah. Marx believed religion was essentially a tool created or at least used by the powerful elite, the ruling class, to keep the working class, the exploited masses, passive.
How so? By dulling their pain. Exactly. Promising rewards in the afterlife pie in the sky when you die. It distracted them from their suffering here and now. It stopped them from revolting against the unfair system. He saw it as fostering a false consciousness, making people accept their lot instead of fighting to change it.
A spiritual painkiller that prevents action. But then you get a twist with neo-Marxists like Antonio Gramsci.
Right. Gramsci agreed that the powerful use culture, including religion, to make their own values seem like just common sense, what he termed cultural hegemony. But, and this is the key difference, he argued religion isn't always conservative. It can actually spark revolution.
Really?
He pointed to figures like, say, Vivekananda in India or Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. These leaders used religious ideas, religious language, to mobilize people, to challenge the existing power structures, even overthrow them. So religion could be an accelerator for change, not just a brake.
Wow, that's a powerful contrast. Okay, next up, Clifford Geertz and his symbolic approach. He saw religion as a system of symbols. What does that mean?
Geertz argued that religion provides us with these powerful symbols, stories, rituals, objects that shape our whole understanding of reality. They give life a sense of order, meaning, purpose. They help us grapple with the really tough questions, the limit situations like suffering, injustice, why bad things happen.
They make sense of the world.
They create a kind of worldview, an ethos that feels deeply true and authoritative. And what's really interesting is how Geertz showed that even seemingly non-religious things can function in this symbolic, almost religious way.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Like what?
Well, get this. Coca-Cola. Geertz used this example. Think about its logo, that iconic red color, the ritual of opening it, the feeling it evokes.
Coca-Cola as religion.
In a functional sense, yes. He argued these elements act like religious symbols. They shape moods, motivations, create this kind of global community of consumers. It makes you wonder, what other everyday things, what brands or activities are we kind of worshiping without even realizing it?
That's a bit unsettling. It really highlights how deep that human craving for meaning and belonging runs, doesn't it? We'll find it somewhere.
Absolutely. And that need for meaning also intersects with identity, which brings us to the feminist critique of religion.
Right. This perspective points out how, historically, many major religions have tended to sideline women.
Yeah, scholars have highlighted several patterns. Often a lack of female founders or key figures, the exclusion of women from priestly roles or positions of authority, and sacred texts largely written and interpreted by men, sometimes promoting stereotypes of women as primarily domestic or self-sacrificing.
You see it in things like Old Temple entry rules or ancient codes like the Manus Redi in Hinduism, which outline different, often lesser rights for women.
Exactly. But it's also crucial, as you mentioned, to remember that feminist critiques aren't monolithic. Elite feminism, for example, adds another layer. It critiques some mainstream feminist approaches for potentially overlooking how gender interacts with other forms of oppression, specifically caste and class in the Indian context. It reminds us that people's experiences are shaped by multiple intersecting identities, and we need theories that capture that complexity. No single viewpoint tells the whole story.
That's a really important point about intersectionality.
Okay.
Okay, let's fast forward to our fragmented modern world. David Lyon talks about believing without belonging. What's that about?
In our postmodern society, with lots of movement, individualism, uncertainty, Lyon observed that people might still hold religious beliefs, maybe believe in God or some higher power, but they don't necessarily affiliate with a traditional church or temple. They believe, but they don't formally belong.
Like ticking spiritual but not religious on a form.
Kind of, yeah. And conversely, he also noted belonging without believing. People might go to a religious place maybe for social connection, community events, cultural identity, even practical reasons like free food or a quiet space, but without deep personal faith driving them. Religion becomes almost like a consumer choice, something you pick and choose from.
You see it on phone, wallpapers, tattoos, sometimes just as cultural background noise.
Right, and this ties into what Anthony Giddens called ontological insecurity. In a world with fewer fixed traditions and constant change, we can feel a deep uncertainty about who we are, our place in the cosmos.
And this leads people to seek gurus.
Often, yes. People might turn to personal spiritual guides like Sadhguru or others for answers and a sense of grounding. Morality becomes more privatized. Instead of looking to established hierarchies or community elders, individuals seek out these face-to-face moral experts for personalized guidance.
It makes you ask, in a world of constant flux, where do you personally look for moral guidance these days?
It's a key question, and it leads to the big debate. Is religion actually dying out? The classic secularization theory seemed to predict that.
Right, the idea that science and rationality would just replace religious belief, pointing to things like falling church attendance in parts of the West.
But the newer thinking is more nuanced. It argues religion isn't necessarily disappearing, it's just changing its form. It's maybe leaving the big institutions and finding new expressions. Durkheim kind of hinted at this. As long as there's society, there will be some form of shared belief, even if the gods change.
So less institutional power, maybe, but belief persists.
Possibly in more private ways or online communities or focused on personal experience. Look at places like Amritsar's Golden Temple or the Tirupati Temple. They're incredibly crowded. So institutional decline in one area doesn't mean religion itself is vanishing. It's transforming, adapting.
Okay, let's pivot slightly and talk about how we categorize all these diverse beliefs, starting with the divine spectrum monotheism.
Simple enough. Belief in one supreme personal God. Creator, sustainer. Think Judaism, Christianity, Islam. It can foster social order, ethical unity. That's the bright side.
But there's a dark side.
Potentially, yes. The exclusivity, my God is the only true God, can sometimes lead to intolerance, conflict, even extremism. Think historical crusades, or how monotheism sometimes intertwined with the rise of nation-states, creating an us versus them mentality.
Got it. Then polytheism, multiple gods.
Right. A whole pantheon like in ancient Greece or Rome, or Hinduism with deities like Indra, Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, Ram, and many others. The hierarchy and importance of these gods can shift over time and depending on the context. It allows for a lot more local variation and richness.
And then there's a fascinating blend, pluriform monotheism.
Yeah, this is the idea that there's one ultimate divine reality, but it manifests or appears in many different forms or avatars. The Oglala Sioux, for instance, recognize 16 distinct divine beings, but see them all as aspects of one ultimate reality, Wakantanka. It shows just how flexible these belief structures can be.
It really does. Okay, let's touch on some models often associated with simpler or earlier societies, starting with animism again. The belief that everything has a soul.
Every rock, tree, river, animal, storm, they all possess a spirit or consciousness.
And we still see echoes of this today, right?
Sure.
Where do you see that kind of respect for spirit in nature?
Absolutely. Think of the Chipko movement in India, where people literally hug trees to protect them, seeing them as living beings. Or how rivers in India and New Zealand have actually been granted legal personhood with rights. Sacred groves where communities believe a deity resides and thus protect the forest. These are all modern expressions of animistic sensibility. Jainism is fundamentally animistic, too.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, skipping animism and nature worship for time, let's jump to fetishism, not the modern psychological term, but the belief in power residing in man-made objects.
Right. This isn't just symbolism. A shivling might symbolize Shiva, but it's not thought to be Shiva himself. A fetish is an object believed to literally contain supernatural power.
Like the alien's remote control in the movie PK. Or the Annabelle doll.
Exactly. Those are pop culture examples. Or think about commodity fetishism today, how brands like Apple or Rolls-Royce can acquire this almost godlike status. People feel owning the object brings success or power. It can become a placebo loop. Belief leads to confidence, which leads to success, which reinforces the belief in the object's power. You start needing it for luck.
Wow. Okay, and totemism, a group linked to an animal or plant ancestor.
Yes, a clan believes it descends from, say, a specific animal or plant, the totem. Durkheim saw this as crucial. The totem isn't just an ancestor, it's a physical representation of the group's collective energy, its shared consciousness. Worshipping the totem reinforces social solidarity and moral unity.
Like the goat clan in India you mentioned.
Exactly, or the Khmer clans named after various natural features. It's a powerful way symbolic ancestors bind people together. And remember Geertz's thick description.
Right, digging deep into meaning. Like the Balinese cockfight wasn't just about gambling.
It was a whole drama about status, social relationships, cosmic order, all played out through the ritual of the fight. You have to look beyond the surface action to understand the cultural messages embedded within it. It requires deep interpretation.
Really walking in their shoes. Okay, let's weave into the fabric of faith itself. Myths, rituals, and the people who specialize in them. First, myths.
Myths are sacred, symbolic stories. Their origins are usually lost to time, but they're believed to be true within a culture. They're not just fairy tales. They convey fundamental truths or values.
And Bruce Lincoln outlined their functions.
Yeah, he gave a useful framework. Myths can explain things, creation stories, why the seasons change. They can justify customs, why people perform the Hajj pilgrimage or celebrate Diwali, giving rituals deeper meaning. They can also describe the unexplainable, stepping in where science or everyday logic falls short. And crucially, they offer healing and inspiration, acting like spiritual pep talks during hard times.
Got it. And rituals. Formal, scripted actions.
Yes, sequences of symbolic actions, often repetitive, like chanting mantras or performing specific gestures, they serve really important purposes.
Like changing someone's status.
Exactly. Rites of passage naming ceremonies, initiations, marriages, funerals. Think of the Indian Upanayana ceremony marking a boy's entry into education, or intense Aboriginal male initiations in Australia. These rituals publicly transform an individual's social identity.
And they build community.
Absolutely. Shared rituals forge powerful group cohesion. Durkheim emphasized this, as did Victor Turner with his idea of communitas, that deep feeling of shared humanity and connection that emerges during rituals, temporarily dissolving social hierarchies.
And they manage anxiety, like Malinowski said.
Right. Rituals often pop up before uncertain or dangerous events, planting crops, going hunting, even ISRO scientists performing prayers before a rocket launch. They help soothe nerves and provide a sense of control.
Then we have the specialists, the guardians of the sacred, shamans first.
Shamans are often part-time figures, healers, mediators who communicate between the human world and the spirit world. They might enter trances, maybe use psychoactive plants. Often they're called to the role through a personal crisis or illness.
And they can be really influential gatekeepers in a community.
Hugely. That Swaziland case study is key. Anthropologists realized they couldn't just hand out modern medicine for waterborne diseases. They had to work with the local shamans, convince them of the value of oral rehydration salts. Once the shamans endorsed it, distributing it through their networks, child mortality rates plummeted. You have to engage with existing trusted figures.
Makes sense. Then priests more formal, full-time.
Typically, yes. Full-time ritual experts, often part of an organized religious hierarchy, conducting scheduled worship services, often higher status, sometimes hereditary.
And then, the darker side, perhaps, sorcerers and witches. What's the difference?
Anthropologists often distinguish them. Sorcerers are people believed to learn magic, using objects, spells, herbs to achieve specific outcomes, maybe cursing an enemy, finding lost objects, bringing wealth. They use techniques.
Like using voodoo dolls or potions.
Exactly. Witches, on the other hand, are believed to have an innate, inherent power to cause misfortune, often just through thoughts or ill will. They don't need tools. The power is inside them.
And this fear of sorcery actually shaped some of our social rules.
It seems so. Think about why pointing directly at someone feels aggressive or rude in many cultures, or why certain curse words are taboo. These might be lingering echoes of a time when words and gestures were believed to have real, tangible power to harm.
That's wild. And witches often became scapegoats.
Yes. Monica Wilson called witchcraft beliefs a handy explanation for misfortune. When something bad happens, illness, crop failure, blaming a witch provides an easy answer and a target for community anger. Historically, you see this tragically with the European witch hunts, where often marginalized women, like brewers, alewives, were demonized.
And this isn't just ancient history, right? It still happens.
Tragically, yes. In parts of modern India, there are still horrific cases of witch hunting, often targeting vulnerable women, widows, Dalits, tribal women, sometimes as a pretext to grab their land or control them socially. Despite laws against it, women are accused, ostracized, beaten, even killed.
That's deeply disturbing. It really raises the question.
Yeah.
How do we still see this kind of blame game, this scapegoating, playing out in society today? Maybe in politics or online.
It's a pattern of projecting societal anxieties onto a designated other. It definitely persists, just maybe in different forms.
Okay, this need to explain and sometimes control the world brings us to the fascinating interplay between magic, science, and religion. Let's define magic first in the anthropological sense.
Right. Magic is seen as a technique, a skill set often known by specialists, aimed at manipulating supernatural forces to achieve a desired outcome. Malinowski saw it filling cognitive gaps, explaining things we don't understand, and easing anxiety about things we can't control.
And Fraser gave us those two laws.
The classics. The law of similarity, like produces like, hence sticking pins in a doll resembling your enemy, and the law of contact. Things once connected remain connected using someone's hair or fingernails in a spell.
Got it. Now, science. How is it defined in contrast?
Science is about observing, describing, and explaining natural phenomena through systematic experimentation and theoretical reasoning. Karl Popper's key idea was falsifiability.
Meaning science tries to prove itself wrong.
Exactly. A scientific theory makes risky predictions that could be disproven by evidence. That's its strength. Pseudoscience, in contrast, usually just looks for evidence to confirm its existing beliefs. And Robert Merton's Cedos norms, communalism, shared knowledge, universalism, judged on merit, not identity, disinterestedness, pursuit of truth, not personal gain, organized skepticism, critical scrutiny, outline the ethical formwork.
Okay, so how do these three, magic, science, religion, relate? Where do they overlap or differ?
Well, magic and science both follow perceived laws, use techniques, involve specialists, and assume cause and effect. But science deals with the natural world based on empirical evidence, while magic targets supernatural forces based on belief and symbolism.
And magic versus religion.
Both are non-empirical, use symbols and rituals, and often respond to stress or uncertainty. But magic tends to be simpler, maybe more secretive, and aims to manipulate or command supernatural forces. Religion is usually more complex, communal, and involves submission or supplication. You pray to a deity, you don't order it around.
Okay, and religion versus science.
They can overlap in their goals, both try to make sense of the world, driven by curiosity, and often involve collective effort. But the fundamental approaches differ. Religion often relies on faith, accepts dogma that might be considered irrefutable, and deals with morals and ultimate meanings. Science demands precision, empirical evidence, is constantly open to revision, think Newton being updated by Einstein, and focuses on how the natural world works, not necessarily why in a metaphysical sense.
But in the real world, these lines get blurry, right? You gave some great examples.
Absolutely. ISRO engineers taking a Mars mission model to a temple for blessings before launch. That's science and religion coexisting. Or ordering Tirupati leads the sacred ash food offering online and having it couriered. That's religion meeting modern logistics and commerce.
Or politicians making unverified claims about religious remedies for serious diseases.
Right, like claiming Gamutra, cow urine, cures cancer. These examples really challenge our neat little boxes. They show how people navigate and combine these different ways of knowing and coping in their actual lives. Historically, scholars debated the relationship. Tyler saw science replacing the others. Fraser saw a linear progression, magic, religion, science. Durkheim saw science refining religious thought. Malinowski saw all three meeting different, enduring human needs, especially managing anxiety.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, final stretch. Religion in the 21st century, evolution, extremism, and even economics. Let's start with how faiths splinter. Denominations, sects, cults.
Quick definitions. Denominations are large, established religious bodies generally accepted within society, like Methodists or Baptists within Christianity. Sects are smaller groups that have broken away, often stricter, sometimes in tension with the mainstream, like early Pentecostals. Cults, or new religious movements, are trickier, often newer, smaller, centered around a charismatic leader, sometimes with beliefs and practices seen as deviant by the wider society.
And Durkheim's idea about new gods fits cults well.
Perfectly. He wrote, "The old gods are growing old or are already dead, and others are not yet born." Cults often arise in times of social change and uncertainty, particularly among urban middle classes feeling alienated or seeking meaning individualism doesn't provide. They fill that void, often with a charismatic moral expert offering personalized answers. Think Sadhguru, Deepak Chopra, Ram Rahim.
And there are different types: audience cults, client cults.
Right, Stark and Bainbridge categorize them. Audience cults, large diffuse followings, often online, little commitment required. Client cults, offering specific services like therapy or enlightenment, often to wealthier clients. And cult movements, demanding total commitment, communal living, like Osho's group or Heaven's Gate. Membership can be fluid, people might dip in and out.
Okay, shifting to a more concerning aspect, fundamentalism.
Fundamentalism generally involves a strict, literal interpretation of sacred texts, rejecting alternative views, and often seeing the world in black and white, us versus them terms. It can lead to intolerance and, in extreme cases, violence, fueled by communal fear. We've sadly seen tragic examples like the Udaipur killing or the Emravati chemist murder linked to religious offense.
Why does it flare up? Are there specific conditions?
Steve Bruce identified key factors: a perceived threat to the group's cultural identity, reliance on a single sacred text interpreted literally, the creation or identification of a clear external enemy, and often decentralized religious authority allowing extremist interpretations to flourish. Gabriel Allman added that you often need underlying structural issues like marginalization, a specific trigger event like inflammatory remarks or perceived insults, and effective mobilizers to turn discontent into action.
Understood. Now back to secularization, but with that nuanced view. Brian Wilson defined it as religion losing social influence.
Right, not necessarily belief disappearing, but religion having less sway over public life, institutions like law, education, politics. While church attendance might drop in some places, it doesn't mean faith is gone. Robert Bellah spoke of modern individualism leading to more private forms of faith. David Lyons' Believing Without Belonging captures this personal spirituality disconnected from institutions.
And Michel Navasoli's idea of neo-tribes.
Yeah, he suggested that even if grand religious narratives fade, people still form small, often temporary groups based on shared interests, passions, lifestyles, music fans like Ed Sheeran's Cheerios, hobbyists, Harley-Davidson riders, online communities. These create mini collectives, new forms of belonging and shared identity, suggesting new kinds of gods or focuses for collective effervescence are always emerging. The desire for belonging persists.
Finally, let's connect religion to something seemingly separate: economics, through economic anthropology.
The core idea here is that the economy isn't some separate, purely rational machine. It's deeply embedded in culture. Economic decisions are shaped by cultural values, social relationships, and yes, religious beliefs.
Malinowski's Kula Ring is a classic example.
Absolutely. His study of Trobriand islanders exchanging shell necklaces and armbands showed it wasn't just about material gain. The act of gifting, the circulation of these valued items built social status, cemented alliances, created obligations. It was about relationships, prestige, not just profit.
And religion directly impacts economic behavior.
Definitely. Think about Islamic banking principles prohibiting interest riba, which shapes entire financial systems. Or Hindus traditionally avoiding jobs involving cow slaughter due to religious beliefs about cows being sacred. Or that surprising example from Chiapas, Mexico, where Coca-Cola is sometimes used in shamanic healing rituals, a global commodity incorporated into local religious practice as a sign of respect or offering.
So economic life is always cultural.
Always. Karl Polanyi identified different types of economic transactions beyond just market exchange: reciprocity, gift giving, like the Kula Ring or potlatch feasts, and redistribution, collecting resources centrally and distributing them, like taxes or temple langar. Even modern globalization, remittances sent home by migrants, microfinance initiatives, they all show economic activities are woven into social and cultural fabrics.
What an incredible journey we've taken. It's clear religion is this deeply human thing, universal, yet incredibly diverse. It's constantly adapting, isn't it? Meeting our needs for answers, for comfort, for community, even shaping how we trade and work.
Indeed. Whether it's explaining the cosmos, binding societies together, helping us cope with anxiety, or even finding expression in unexpected places like brands or online groups, it speaks to that enduring human quest for meaning and connection. Its forms are endlessly flexible.
So here's something to leave you with, a final thought to chew on. Given everything we've explored today, what new sacred things, maybe objects, places, ideas, even online communities are emerging in your life or in the world around you? What's fulfilling those deep human needs for meaning, belonging, and maybe even a bit of magic in ways we might not immediately label as religious? Something for you to ponder until our next deep dive.